Hey everyone, it's me Harry, and in today's Mediavent calendar, we're going to take a look at, as I promised you all yesterday, a whole range of Hasbro licensed video games that I own. Just about, well, all of them are Infogrames and Atari titles, so I'll just call them the Infogrames Atari Hasbro licensed games. And I'm also including Wizards of the Coast titles because they're a Hasbro subsidiary, and I'm also including a few games in there that Hasbro have published but they don't own or didn't own at the time when they were made. But I'll explain this in the video so as it goes by. So we're going to start off with Monopoly Junior. This was originally a Hasbro Interactive title, and then it was reissued under the Infogrames replay range in 2001. It's the same game though, but it doesn't have a manual, which is transitioned off to as a PDF file. But it's still the same game, if you can get it working, that is, developed by Mind's Eye Productions. Next up is another compilation of Hasbro Interactive titles, and it's the Family Collection. And it comes with 3 games: Westwood Monopoly, Risk 2, and Cluedo Murder at Blackwell Grange. Each from different developers: Westwood Studios, Deep Red Games, and Engineering Imagination. One of them says Adrenaline Entertainment, but I have no idea what they were involved with. So once again, no manual, you just get the discs on top of each other. So there's Cluedo, or Clue. There's Risk 2. And then there's Monopoly Westwood. Or Westwood Monopoly, I mean. And then another compilation I have is Totally Action Man, which also came out in 2001. So this is a compilation that includes the Hasbro Interactive titles Action Man Jungle Storm and Action Man Raid on Island X. Both developed, I think, Jungle Storm, I think one of them is developed by Blitz and the other is developed by Intelligent Games, but I think they're both from Intelligent Games. Yeah, they're both from Intelligent Games, the copyright says. So, yeah, once again, no manual, you just have discs. And then you have an advert for the CGI Action Man series from Saban Entertainment and Mainframe with Alex Mann on it. And then you have the discs for each. And what is funny about my copy, but I don't know if it might have happened with any others, is that both the data for the discs are swapped around. So that's kind of odd. Then here's another Action Man title, Action Man Destruction X, a port of a PlayStation title of the same name, developed by Blitz Games, released in 2001 as well. I've not played this one because it does not work on Windows 10 or higher. You just put it in and then it crashes. That's weird if you'd ask me. But yeah, I want to get another port. Next up is Monopoly Tycoon. This is another game that's very hard to get running on modern Windows. It's from Deep Red Games, and it's basically a roller coaster tycoon-esque game. Although it's sort of misleading because it says from the people who brought you Roller Coaster Tycoon, but Deep Red Games did not develop that game. That was from Chris Sawyer. He made it on his own, and Infogrames and Hasbro published it. So I think it was meaning like publisher or something, but I have no idea. So yeah, Monopoly Tycoon. If I can ever get this game working, then I think I'll probably enjoy it. Now I'll go over on to 2002, and we have Tonka Monster Trucks, developed by Data Design Interactive. Yep, they actually made another Tonka game other than Tonka Space Station, which wasn't a great game. This one is very poorly optimized. It just crashes randomly for no reason at all on any Windows platform. So that's what I mean. I just think it's just poorly made or something. Yeah, released in May of 2002. Such a shame, really, because it was a good concept as well. Next up, Neverwinter Nights. You've already seen this in that Atari boxed game collection video I did back in June, I think. So I'm not going to go over that one. If you want to see it, watch that video. So yeah, there's Neverwinter Nights from BioWare. released in June of 2002. I'll put it back where it was. And in this, I'm just going to count the expansions as well as a separate section, because they are all part of the same game. So we have Neverwinter Nights: Shadows of Undertide from BioWare and I think another developer that I've forgotten the name of, and this was released in July of 2003. It was one of the earliest Atari branded titles. And then this was followed up with Hordes of the Underdark in December of 2003. Also from BioWare. And then we have this one, Neverwinter Nights: Kingmaker. This is a standalone retail release of 3 Neverwinter Nights modules. And this came out in November of 2005. And this is actually good if you want to get the modules on its own with the original physical release of the game, because they were originally only sold on BioWare's website, and the servers of those have shut down a long time ago. But it is missing the other 3 modules, but they're all available on goodoldgames.com, I think. And I think the new edition of the game has it as well. Next up is Tonka Search and Rescue 2, developed by Artex Studios and released in October of 2002. So this is the sequel to Tonka Search and Rescue that was released back in 1997. I don't own the first game, but I do own this one. I still have yet to find the first game in big box form. Next up, Monopoly 3, or Monopoly New Edition as this version says, or Monopoly 2002, whatever you call it. An enhanced port of, an enhanced version of Monopoly 2, but I'll just call this Monopoly 3. It's once again from Artex Studios, just like with Monopoly 2. There we are. Came out in October as well. Next up is Micro Machines, a 3D version of the classic Codemasters franchise of the same name, but although it is a Hasbro property. Developed by Infogram Sheffield House and released in November of 2002. And there was also a GameCube version which came out in January of 2003, but I don't own that version of the game. And then the strange oddity is that the Infogram's logo appears on the disc, but on the packaging it's the Atari logo. But this is still an Infogram's game because it was released before the merger, before the Atari name went through. And even then, the Xbox version has Atari's logo on it, so yeah, it must have been like some early print or something. Next up is Monopoly Party. I don't have the Xbox version of this, but there you go. That version and the PS2 version came out in December of 2002, and the GameCube version came out in February of 2003, so it came out like a few months later. The disc I have of the version of the game I have is a later re-release of it, as it's got Atari's logo on it. But everything else is still the original. And then here's the GameCube version, which I've had for a couple of years now. I gave it to my sister to play with for a couple of years, and then she gave it me back. And there you are. Quite a fun game, really. You can all play at once and try and go bankrupt or get the get out of jail free card. Next up is the Temple of Elemental Evil, a Greyhawk based on Dungeons and Dragons RPG game. I've already shown this one, so I'm not going to show it here. But it is developed by what's the company called again? Sometimes it's really hard trying to know who the developers of some of these games are because... Oh, Troyoka Games. It was up the front of the packaging. Silly me. Next up is Magic the Gathering Battlegrounds. A fighting game based on the Magic the Gathering card game. So it's not an RPG, but as I said, it's a fighting game. So yeah, developed by Secret Level and published in November of 2003. So the for this version, so yeah, the PC version is 2 discs, but of course the Xbox version, of course, is 1 DVD. So yeah, 2 CD-ROMs, 1 DVD. Yeah, you get the idea. Next one isn't a Hasbro one, but I still count it as such anyway, because I think, yeah, they did produce the toy range. And that's Beyblade V4 Super Tournament Battle from AI and published by Takara. And then they licensed it to Atari outside Japan. It's technically owned by D-Rights, but you get the idea. Nelvana licensed it in Europe. Anyways, that's that game. Released in November 2003 as well. Then we have Transformers. But this is based on the Transformers Armada anime series, which I already showed off Volume 1 of the DVD for on another installment of my Mediavent calendar. And this was developed by Atari Sheffield House, published in February of 2004. Once again, the release dates I say are the UK release dates, so they don't count for North America, whatever. And then there was also a director's cut version which came out a year later, but I don't have that one. So yep, PS2 exclusive, and that's very fascinating indeed. Next up is Tonka Town, another Tonka license game. And this one is developed by Imagine Engine. Yeah, it's obviously made for really young kids, but still playing these kind of games does bring back memories to some people. Next up, Tonka Firefighter from Boston Animation. And this game isn't that bad either. The Tonka games actually aren't that bad altogether. They're fun, and yeah, they are obviously marketing ploys by Hasbro to sell toys, but there you go. And then here's one that's a definite marketing ploy by Hasbro to sell toys. My Little Pony Best Friends Ball, developed by Imagine Engine. So this is a G3 My Little Pony game. It was called the My Little Pony PC Fun Pack in the US, but here it's called Best Friends Ball. Because in the US it came with a baby pony toy. Now, next up is Risk Global Domination, a adaptation of course, Risk. And this is developed by Cyberlaw. Sometimes need to look closely at who developed these games. This came out in July of 2004. It actually came out a few months earlier in 2003 in North America. Don't know why it took them this long, but there you go. Next up is, well, they weren't owned by Hasbro at the time, but I'll count them anyway. They were owned by Horn Abbott, but Hasbro just licensed them to... They just licensed it to Hasbro, and that's Trivial Pursuit Unhinged. A Trivial Pursuit licensed game from Artex Studios. It also had an Xbox version as well, which was North American exclusive. So what we have here was what we got in the UK. The PC and the PlayStation 2 versions. Good if you wanted to have a themed party, I guess. But I don't know what a PC version would mean. Oh yeah, because it has an online mode, I think. But I highly doubt the online servers are even active anymore on this game. Yeah, they were both released in October of 2004, and they were probably obviously made for the fact that you can play online or something. Next up is Access and Allies, real-time strategy game based on the board game. I've already shown this one as well in that other video I made, so there you are, from Timegate Studios. It did see a later budget re-release by another game publisher after Hasbro's Atari license expired, but there you go. Next up is Duel Masters Limited Edition. So this is a game based on the Duel Masters card game from Wizards of the Coast in the anime series. And it's developed by High Voltage Software. Yeah, all these card games made at the time. Of course, Hasbro and Wizards had to find a way to counter onto the Yu-Gi-Oh fad after they lost the rights to the Pokemon trading card game back to the Pokemon Company. Next up is another Forgotten Realms video game, and that's Demon Stone. But this time, it's more or less an action-adventure game than a role-playing game. But yeah, a very interesting take on Dungeons and Dragons. Although it is an RPG as well, so don't you worry. So of course you have a DVD version, and of course you have the console version. It was one of the only Dungeons and Dragons console games other than Heroes to be released at the time. I don't have Dungeons and Dragons Heroes, although I do plan on getting that one at some point because it does look quite cool, even though I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons fan. Especially since, of course, there are so many different universes to appear in that there are. Next up is Neverwinter Nights 2. So you have the base game released in 2006. Mask of the Betrayer, the first expansion pack, released in 2007. And Storm of Zaya, released in 2008. There's also Mysteries of Westgate, which wasn't released in the UK physically, or in any country in that matter other than Poland and Russia. They got it physically, but we only got it through Atari's website, and the only way you can get that now is through goodoldgames.com, after Hasbro got the publishing rights to it. So yep, here's Neverwinter Nights 2, the base game. Next up is Mask of the Betrayer. And then lastly is Storm of Zaya. So yep, 2 wonderful expansion packs with the base game. Good for any Dungeons and Dragons fan, I guess. And then last but not least is, well, some may associate it as a Hasbro title, but it's not a Hasbro title. It's Jenga World Tour for the Wii. One of the worst Wii games of all time, because of how poorly made it is. And, you know, Paconobe Associates owns the Jenga brand and they license it to Hasbro, but still. Don't buy this game. Don't even think that it even exists, because you'll regret it. This came out in February 2008, by the way, so there you go. So yeah, that's once again another selection of Hasbro titles for different consoles. So there you go. What should I look at next? I don't know. Maybe I'll think next time. See you, everyone.